We begin tonight with a major development in the dueling January 6th investigations. The House Select Committee has agreed to a formal path to share evidence and witness transcripts with the Justice Department as it escalates its own investigation. First reported by Politico, Chairman Benny Thompson confirmed the agreement on a template for evidence and witness transcript sharing. It is a major step, as the extent of the Justice Department's investigation has become increasingly public and more urgent, with the Washington Post first reporting that the DOJ is scrutinizing the former president's actions in its criminal probe. Chairman Thompson also said he anticipates a report on the National Guard response to the attack will be released in August, as the committee continued its work today. Former acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney met with the panel for a virtual taped deposition. Meanwhile, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said he is in discussions with the committee about possible testimony. And according to multiple reports, the committee has interviewed former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Zeroing in on members of the former president's cabinet suggests that the committee could be looking for more information regarding possible discussions about invoking the 25th Amendment against the former president in the aftermath of the attack on the Capitol. Pompeo and Mnuchin reportedly discussed that possibility at the time, as reported by Jonathan Karl of ABC News in his book, Betrayal. In the meantime, committee witness Cassidy Hutchinson is also reportedly cooperating with the Justice Department's investigation. We now know that the department obtained phone records from her former boss, Mark Meadows, in April. Back in Washington today, following his COVID diagnosis, Committee Chairman Benny Thompson indicated that the Justice Department had expressed interest in evidence surrounding the fake pro-Trump elector scheme and welcomed the scrutiny into the former president's actions in particular.
I think we've made a significant case that there are some problems there. If that is the direction the Department of Justice is taking, then, we are a nation of laws, and they are the prosecutorial body to look at it. But it's up to them to tell us what they want.
Joining me now is Carol Leonnig, national investigative reporter for The Washington Post and an MSNBC contributor, and Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. Thank you both for being here. Carol, I'm going to start with you. Pompeo and Mnuchin apparently coming in to talk primarily about whether or not the 25th Amendment was considered, something that Jonathan Karl has written in his book. In essence, what would be the significance potentially, or is there significance in your reporting on the Justice Department side? Because that's state of mind kind of stuff. If two of his cabinet members or more thought that he might need a 25th Amendment option, is that something that you could see also traversing the line into the Department of Justice investigation?
It really is a great question, but I think what's important there is whether or not Donald Trump knew they were considering that, right? His state of mind is really about what he knew and what he wanted. A critical point that's been raised over and over again was, did he know the election was not rigged? Well, there must have been 24 people who told him it wasn't, and they had all of the information at their disposal, most notably Bill Barr. In the case of the 25th Amendment, I find it really interesting, but I believe that the president had to know that that little plot was afoot in order for it to matter.
And Glenn, can you talk about the significance of there now being an agreement? Because that had been a point of contention, whether or not the committee would hand over its work product, in essence, to the Justice Department. Now that we know that they are pursuing their own investigation, we're now learning that the Justice Department actually, back in April, got phone records from key officials and aides in the Trump administration. That does include Mark Meadows. That seems significant.
It is significant, and it proves that the Department of Justice has been digging in ways and at times that none of us knew. So I think with respect to the transcripts, I have a feeling they will all go over to the Department of Justice from the J6 committee, but it feels like this is the J6 committee sort of flexing its co-equal branch of government muscle, saying we've done a lot of work. We're presenting our work product to the American people, and when we've completed our task, we will be providing you with the transcripts that you can then use. Because, Joy, they can take these transcripts, they can present them to the grand jury, and I suspect the federal prosecutors will want to build on them, will probably want to recall those witnesses and maybe flesh out some things on the evidentiary front that the J6 committee didn't. So it's all going to go over, but it looks like it's going to go over at a time of the J6 committee's choosing.
Carol, to come back to you just a moment, to stay on this whole issue, to go back to this issue of Trump's state of mind. You wrote in a book you were very, very much familiar with, the book I Alone Can Fix It, that there was a concern that Trump would actually try to use the military to attempt a military coup in order to stay in power. I want to play General Mark Milley, and this is in one of the committee interviews that the January 6th committee conducted. And this is regarding how Mark Meadows and Mike Pompeo perceived Donald Trump's state of mind.
Now, there was a couple of the calls where, Meadows and/or Pompeo, but more Meadows. How's the president doing? Like Pompeo might say, "How's the president doing?" And Meadows would say, "Well, he's in a really dark place." Like here's one, for example, on the 7th of January. So this is day after, right? POTUS is very emotional and in a bad place. Meadows.
And we know that Cassidy Hutchinson has testified about conversations among cabinet members. We saw in that documentary there was Mike Pence was presented with this idea himself. How much in your reporting do we know about how serious Trump might have been about attempting to use the military? We know Mark Milley would have said absolutely not.
That's right. And, Joy, Mark Milley would have said absolutely not, but he also was on tenterhooks prepared for the possibility that Donald Trump would try such a move, a banana republic junta kind of move. That was a worry of his. And as we write in our book, by Phil Rucker and I wrote in that book about the catastrophic year 2020, Milley was prepared for, this Reichstag moment. He believed that Donald Trump was whipping up a furor, whipping up panic and tension among his supporters, calling them to Washington will be wild on January 6th, and was trying to create this anger about a stolen election. Your votes have been stolen, completely false, but all toward the end of supporting Donald Trump's ability to create chaos, create violence, ultimately, and consequently, all in the furtherance of a scheme to overturn the rightful votes of Americans. Milley and others, forgive me, but one thing that's chilling to me is Milley and several of his Joint Chiefs met to plan what would they do if Donald Trump gave them orders to use the military for nefarious purposes, either to create panic and chaos or to try to intervene in the certification of the election. And they all agreed that one by one, they would essentially throw their bodies over in front of this scheme. They would resign, and then others agreed that they would not agree to take their place. So in essence, you wouldn't have a military anymore. The same thing happened at the Department of Justice. Rich Donahue and Jeffrey Rosen warned the president, if you do this, if you try to make us claim the election is rigged, you're going to have a mass resignation at the Department of Justice.
And can I ask you, Carol, was there concern, because there were members of the Oath Keepers who are military. There were people who were part of that mob, chanting "Hang Mike Pence" and hunting Nancy Pelosi, et cetera, who had military backgrounds. Was there any concern, per your reporting, among Milley and other members of the cabinet that not all of the military would obey in order for Mark Milley to stand down?
Well, I think that is too speculative for me as a reporter to go into. I'll tell you that paramilitary quality of many of these individuals was a worry, and there were investigations in the aftermath of January 6th about some of the commentary that military members, Secret Service agents, and even some National Guard members made about January 6th, and essentially cheering on some of those insurrectionists. That was really worrisome about an enemy within. There have been a lot of conversations, really painful conversations at the Department of Homeland Security and DOD about, let's talk about people inside our government who believe that the election was rigged and that Donald Trump should still be president, and root for that.
That is the makings of a military coup. And I say that because, to come to you for a moment, Glenn, and then I will have a final question for Carol on this because I know she's done a lot of reporting on it. The Secret Service is one entity that we're now starting to worry had elements within it that were in favor of this MAGA coup. The Secret Service director has now delayed his retirement. His name is James Murray. He's delaying his retirement. He was supposed to retire actually this weekend, but he's going to stay for the betterment of the agency and to see the agency through these investigations. We have the key Democrats wanting the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General to be removed. His name is Joseph Kafari, removed from the Secret Service probe. They say the Trump appointee knew earlier. Then has been reported that the agency deleted text messages from around the January 6th attack on the Capitol. So what we have now are concerns. And if you're at the Justice Department right now, who are you subpoenaing around that, if anyone?
So I actually think that the FBI has enough evidence, an adequate predication to open a criminal probe into the deletion of these Secret Service texts. It's so disheartening to me, Joy, because when I was working cases with the Secret Service, when we had cell phones and we needed to have forensic searches conducted, particularly if we thought that the owner of the cell phone had deleted information or evidence, we went to the United States Secret Service Forensic Sciences Division, because it's the premier agency to recover deleted data from electronic devices. So it really smells bad that they're saying that they inadvertently deleted all of this information after they were asked to preserve it. But you know what? If they've done nothing wrong, they will be exonerated, and they should welcome a criminal probe into their conduct.